All right. So today we have Felix and Jennifer who are going to be demonstrating the practice. I am in a walking boot after an Achilles repair, so I will not be demonstrating, but I will be moving around a little bit at times to give cues or pointers, or I might even manually make some small corrections for Felix and Jennifer as we go. We're going to treat this um, a little bit more like a workshop, a yoga workshop, where we take a few moments in some of the poses that might be easily misunderstood or more challenging and break them down a little bit. And I'm going to offer that you can stop, unmute yourself and ask questions. And Felix and Jennifer can also ask questions as we go. You can't hear them because I have my AirPods in and they can't hear you, but I will translate back and forth. So we're going to start on our backs, and you will need a couple of yoga blocks. You might need a blanket for padding your knees, and you might need a strap if you find it hard to reach back for your foot in the quad stretch position. So right now, Jennifer and Felix are in two different positions. So Felix is in this hip flexor relaxation position. So he has his legs up on two yoga bolsters. But even more effective would be having your legs up on a couch or an ottoman or a chair where you have a little bit more hip and knee flexion. And Felix, you could scoot your butt even a little closer to yeah, so more of you is, yep, yeah. But there's no magic angle that will work for this. And Jennifer is in a knock-kneed position here, which is another way to release tension in the hip flexors um, without needing a prop or a piece of furniture for this. Your arms can be where it's comfortable. So Felix has his arms overhead, which maybe he's intuitively done, but is also positioned to relax tension or release tension in the upper trapezius muscles, the ones that run between the neck and shoulders. And Jennifer has her hands here on her belly, which is sometimes a position of grounding or centering or calming to the nervous system. And then bring your focus to your breath. So in yoga, we breathe both inhale and exhale through the nose. So it's different than other movement practices where you might inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. And this also is calming to the nervous system, starts to slowing the breathing down, communicates to your nervous system that you are in a safe place. It's okay to relax and not be on guard. And then start to slow down, lengthen out the breath. So we're not making this big deep breaths or effortful breathing, just slowing it down. And some of you may have already gone to that lengthened breath. For me, when I lie on my yoga mat, it's sort of Pavlovian. I automatically start to come into that yogic breathing. Taking the next few breaths to set an intention for your practice today. And I'll offer this intention of being open and curious to learn. So bringing this thought of being open and curious to the front of your mind and breathe with intention. So we'll begin to move from here. So if you have your legs up on the couch, you're going to move away from that. If you have the bolsters like Felix, you're just going to push them all the way out of the way. I'm going to have you pull both knees in towards you here, and you could hold on to the shins. But if you have knee joint issues, you might hold the backs of the thighs instead so you don't compress the knee joints. And then start to circle your hips and knees. So your legs are pretty relaxed, and the arms are doing the work. And this doesn't need to feel intense. This is really more about getting some movements in the hips, the hip joints, the joints in the lumbar spine, and a little self massage to the lower back. We'll pull the knees back in through center here, and then lowering the feet down to the floor. Roll onto your left side. So we're coming into this fetal pose position, and I'm going to encourage you either to put the arm under your head or fold up a blanket or both things so that your neck stays relaxed here in this position. So the hips and the knees are going to stay bent and in this position, and stretch your top arm straight out from the shoulder. On the inhale, sweep that arm up towards the ceiling, reach it back behind you, turn your head in that direction. Yeah. And then you exhale, bring the arm up and forward to the starting position. And you can even reach forward a little bit more. Yeah. And then you inhale, sweep it back. So moving with your own breath. Yeah. That little reach forward when you come back on your side starts to activate your serratus muscles that are really important in the catch position where you're trying to extend your arms forward as much. So engaging those muscles here and then pulling back with that arm. And the head turn helps you get a little more movement in the mid and upper back. Pausing here on your side and turn over to do the other side. So again, just make sure your head is supported here so you don't strain. And we're doing the same thing. Reach forward a little bit in that side lying, and then inhale, sweep it back behind you, turning the head. And if you're watching this here, you can see a little bit of difference in the bodies and motion, which is good to see all of it. So Jennifer has a little bit more rotation in her mid and upper back. And but Felix is doing pretty well too here. But you can see how he can't quite get that shoulder down, and that's okay. You're just going to whatever range of motion you have comfortably. And sometimes the more you do it, the next few rotations you might get a little bit more. Yeah, let's do one more, guys. Nice. All right, coming on your side and make your way up to hands and knees. I'm gonna have you guys facing me. Yeah, yeah. And if you'd like to pad your knees, feel free to do that with a blanket. Jennifer has like really lovely extra padding under her mat here. And in this tabletop position, knees under hips, wrist under shoulders. And so Jennifer has that loose fist position, so she's not pressing down through the wrist or having that compressive force there. Or you could always be on your forearms as well. And then cat and cow. So you're rounding through the back, tucking your chin, tucking the tailbone under, pushing the floor away. Good. And then inhale, lift the tailbone, pull that chest forward, gaze forward. And then we go back and forth between those two. Exhale to round through the back. Inhale, belly down, chest forward. And Felix, I'm going to have you try to keep your elbows straight here, even when that chest comes forward. Yes. And then when you round the back, push the floor away and get a little more, yes, separation between the shoulder blades. Nice. Good. A few more here. And eventually bring this back into a neutral spine position. And this next one is we're reaching one leg. Let's reach our left leg back and cross it over to the right side. And you might be able to peek around that right shoulder to see the foot. If not, look towards your right hand instead of the foot so you don't crank through the neck. And then bring that knee back down underneath its own hip. And then we do the other side. You inhale, cross that leg over, look towards it, or look towards your left hand. And then exhale, knee to center. And then keep going. You inhale, leg crossing over, exhale to center. And the turning the head bit is just to get a little bit more side bend through the waist, the rib cage. But if it's really just straining through the neck, just think about pushing the ribs out towards the side or the hip out towards the side. Let's do one more to each side. All right, both knees down here. And I'm going to have you come into either a child's or puppy pose. So Felix is doing a version of a puppy pose. In fact, Felix, I'm going to have you come into more of a puppy pose where your hips are more over your knees. So walk it forward a little bit. Yeah. Jennifer's in the child's pose, hips over heels. And Felix is in puppy, hips over knees. And some of the reasons to do puppy instead of child's is if you have or have had a herniated disc in the lumbar spine, if you have low bone density, osteopenia, osteoporosis in the spine, hip or knee issues. And if the forehead doesn't rest easily on the floor, you could stack your hands underneath. You could put a block under there if we end up staying there for extended periods of time. You can always rest at any time during the practice. Feel free to modify, to adjust, adapt any of the poses to suit what's going on in your body. We'll come back up to hands and knees and any variation with the upper body here. And we're coming into the toe rocking movement. So let's stretch one leg back and have the toes tucked under. So this is really about mobility. So you're pressing the heel back to feel a stretch through the calf and shift forward, bending through the toes, so stretch through the sole of the foot. So you exhale, push the heel back, inhale, shift forward, bending through the toes. And so what I see a lot when people do this, you guys are doing really good with this, but what I see sometimes when people do this is they roll over the top of the toe. And then that kind of takes the mobility piece out of the big toe, which is a big part of what I'm wanting you to get out of this. All right, lower that knee and switch sides. And maybe this is a time for you to notice, does something feel different between the right and left? Calf more flexible, ankle more stiff, big toe more flexible or more stiff. And it's not to make them equal in this moment, but just to notice, and maybe that's an adaptation you might need to take later. All right, lowering that knee back down. So as most of you who come to this class know, I often do this right before coming into downward facing dog. So if you need to take a moment to come off your wrists or hands, you could sit back on your heels or stand up on the knees or maybe shake the wrist out. Yeah. So I think this is maybe one of the first potentially challenging poses for some of us is downward facing dog. So what I'm going to have both of you guys do is walk your knees back a little bit, because what you want when you start in down dog is your hands to be slightly forward of your shoulders. But hips over knees to start. Yeah. Spread your fingers out. So this is actually really important. Spread your fingers out and claw the pads of your fingers into the mat. And now we're going to tuck the toes and lift the hips up and back into that downward facing dog. Good. So if you're really tight here, you're going to bend your knees a little bit. So I'm going to have both of you bend your knees just a little bit. Now stick your butt up and back. Yes, a little bit more. So I don't know if you could see, I could definitely see it on Felix's hair, how his spine really lengthened out. So take a moment here and pedal your feet. So you're going to bend one knee as you press the other heel down and take it slow. Yeah, slow it down. So this is sort of like that toe rocking movement. And Jennifer, I'm going to have you spread your feet a little wider apart. Yes. Good. All right, lower both knees. Come on down, take a break, whether it's child's or puppy, or sit back on your heels, or do a few cat cows, or whatever would feel good to you. So in a moment, I'm going to have you do that one more time. You guys looked really good with your long spines and that slight bend to the knees. And we're going to focus on how to keep some of the tension of the shoulders. So often people push really hard with the muscles around the neck or shoulders. So yeah, So when you're ready, come back into that down dog. Feet are hip distance apart, a little bit into the knees so you can stick your butt out more. Good. And then I'm going to come over here, and what you're trying to do is roll these upper arms outward. Okay, yeah, let's do that. Bend both elbows like a tiny push-up, and then roll your inner arms forward, like where you get your blood drawn from. Roll them forward without rotating your hands outward. Good. Yes. Take a breath. All right, lower the knees back down. Take a break from that down dog. Good. Okay, so often I have you sweep one leg forward into a lunge position from down dog, which is very challenging for a lot of us. So I give the alternative of lowering the other knee and helping that hand come forward. So let's find our down dog. We'll be there just briefly. Long spine, that little bend to the knees, head relaxed between the upper arms. Look forward and step your right foot between your hands. So if it doesn't get there, yep, right hand can help it, and lower the back knee. And sometimes you have to lower the back knee and then help it come forward. Yeah. So find your blocks, which Jennifer, yours are way back there behind you. Yeah. So all that great prep just to come out of it. So right foot forward, ankle underneath the knee. And you're going to use the block under that left hand. The right hand's coming to the right knee. Yeah. Push the hand into the knee so you twist and open your chest here towards the right. Good. And then roll that right shoulder away from your ear. Nice. So you could keep the leverage of the hand pushing into the knee to hold that, or reach your right arm up, palm facing out. Nice. And you could stay with the back knee down, or tuck your toes and lift the back knee. And instead of trying to bring your hand back more, think about pulling that right shoulder blade towards the spine. Looking towards the right or up towards that hand. But if it bothers the neck, then don't do that. All right, lower both hands down to the floor. Take that hand off the block. And we're going to step it back into a plank. So the right leg sweeps back. So you could keep your knees up or lower the knees. Go ahead, Jennifer, go ahead and lower your knees to show that option. Keep the core and lower all the way down, elbows by the ribs. Nice. For low cobra, we pull the shoulder blades towards the spine and the back waist and peel the head and chest up off the floor. You could stay there or press higher for a bigger back bend, but shoulders away from the ears. Good. And then tuck the toes. You can either press through hands and knees or pull the low belly in to shift the hips up and back for downward facing dog. Good. Nice. That little bend to the knees, long spine, the inner elbows forward here. That part where you, yeah, there you go. The area where you get your blood drawn forward. Looking forward, it'll be the left foot, I believe. Yep. So see how they both help that left hand come, or left foot come forward with the left hand. Lower the back knee to start. Block under the right hand, or you could be up on fingertips here. Left hand on top of the knee, press into it so you can help the chest and the gaze rotate here towards the left. Good. You could stay with the back knee down or lift it up. You could stay with the hand on the knee or reach that arm up. Good. Gaze towards that left side or maybe up at the hand, but don't crank the neck around. And then you're just trying to pull that left shoulder. Good. Breathe. All right, lower the hand down. Now we're stepping the back foot to the front foot. It might be one big old step or a few little hops to get there. All right, so a few options here for the forward fold. It could be the ragdoll version where you have a little bend to the knees, upper body draped over lower body. So Jennifer's doing that ragdoll version, and Felix, I'm going to have you do the other one, the protective of the spine. So you're going to do feet wide, butt back, forearms on your thighs. Yeah, you're pressing into your arms to lengthen that spine. Either pose, you could sway a little side to side or front to back. In Jennifer's pose, the ragdoll, you could shake that head out. Breathe. So the reasons to do the version that Felix is doing is, again, if you have herniated disc, low bone density, or really tight hamstrings. Bring your weight shift back to center, bend the knees, and your strong legs. You can even bring your hands to your thighs if you want. Inhale, rise up. You can reach up, and exhale, hands to prayer. Good. Roll the shoulders, shake out your legs a little bit. You guys doing okay? Yeah, okay. All right. So far, so good. All right, so we're coming into mountain pose, which I don't typically kind of slow down and do in this practice, but we do a lot of mountain pose intention in our standing poses. I do this one in my Sunday class if you've come to that one. So stand with your feet about shoulder distance apart, and you're going to put a little bend in your knees. Yeah, good. And then this is that tailbone down, top of the head up. So you're lengthening the tailbone straight down towards the floor. So it's not a tuck under and it's not a stick the tailbone out. It's sort of neutral. At the same time, reach the top of the head towards the ceiling. Can you release the shoulders away from the ears? And then keep the tailbone lengthening down and straighten both knees. Good. Breathe. So notice how strong and tall and stable you feel, like how long your waist feels, how long your neck feels here. And you may not notice it, but I can see in both of you how lifted your arches are away from the floor. So this activation through the spine is activating through the feet and vice versa. All right, so remember that feeling, and we're gonna do that in these two warrior poses here. So we're gonna talk about what is the difference between warrior one and warrior two. So we'll start with warrior one for maybe obvious reasons. We're going to step the left foot back. All right. So warrior one, you're lining your heels up with your sitting bones, which is where your hip joints are. The hip joints are not at your sitting bones, but they're aligned with them. And the back foot is angled so the toes are pointing more towards the left front corner of the mat. Yeah. And Jennifer, you have a little bit more space between your feet, like wide out. Yes. No, left foot out more. Yes. Good. Front knee bending, and your hips are square towards the front of the mat. If you have to crank yourself around to do that, your back foot is turned out too far to the side, or it's too narrow in. There you go. Good adjustment. All right. Keep the front knee bent. And again, that tailbone down, top of the head, reaching up. And then you're letting your arms float up. So the hands are overhead, palms face each other. Yeah, and then Felix just made this nice adjustment where you relax those muscles between the neck and the shoulder. And sometimes it's hard to do that. If you bring your arms out more in a V position, it can be a little bit, yeah, Jennifer, you did a nice little release there when you came out to that. Good. All right, release the arms, step forward. Let's do this on the other side. So it'll be the right foot back this time in that warrior one. So think about where your sitting bones are. And warrior one is different than warrior two, and you'll see in a moment where the feet are. Back foot is turned out, but toes more directed towards the front right corner. Good. Front knee bent, tailbone down, top of the head reaching up, arms floating up here. Nice. And then notice, yeah, often we use those muscles between the neck and shoulders to lift up, but we don't want them staying tense the whole time. So that release there, keep that front knee bent, that lengthening through the spine. Good. All right, release the arms and step it forward, shake it out, roll the shoulders here a little bit. All right, warrior two. So the difference between warrior one and warrior two is the foot placement and the angle of the hips and the arms. So we're going to step the left foot back. Yep. And this time the left toes are going to point out towards the long edge of the mat. So they're more of a right angle. Yeah. Front heel is roughly aligned with the arch of the back foot. Yeah. Okay, bending that front knee again. It comes over the ankle or somewhere in line, forward or back of it. And then again, notice that your hips are angled out towards the left, but not directly left, a little bit more towards the front. Tailbone down, top of the head reaching up, and then you're reaching your arms forward and backward here. So yeah, good. And shoulders relax away from the ears. Now, both of you went automatically to the palms facing up, which is not the traditional way of doing it, but it's the way I often teach it. So I taught you well. You've drunk my Kool-Aid. But if you do what they're doing here, palms and inner elbows facing up, it allows you to release the shoulder blades down your back, which is, again, that release of the tension between the neck and shoulders, that muscle there. And make sure you have your shoulders over your hips. So there you go. Yeah, good. And the back knee straight, pressing into the outer edge of the back foot. All right, one of the questions we got was, where does your head go in side angle or triangle? So let's do a side angle here. Back hand to the hip, and either bring your front hand or the forearm to the front knee. So you're side bending over here. And open that chest a little bit more here towards the left side. You could reach the top arm straight up or over towards the front of your mat if you like that side stretch. And then here, like, where does that head go? So you could look here towards the left. You could look up towards the hand. But what you don't want to happen is for the head to droop down. So think of your head as a real extension of the spine. Hard to see it in yourself, but if you notice that right ear coming towards the right shoulder, the head's drooped down. All right, strong legs. Inhale, rise back up. Step the back foot to the front foot. Shake out the legs, roll the shoulders here. And then we're going to do that warrior two on the other side. So right foot back. The toes are pointed out towards the right long edge of the mat. Front heel roughly lined up with the arch of the back foot. Front knee bent. Tailbone down, top of the head reaching up. Arms reaching forward and back. Yeah, so let's start. Palms, inner elbows facing up. And then see if you can let your shoulder blades slide down your back. Don't have to push them down. Just see if they'll let go. Now keep the shoulder blades in that down position, but rotate your palms to face down. Good. Looking over the front hand. Breathe. All right, side angle here. Back hand to the hip, either front hand or forearm to the front thigh. Use the leverage of the arm against the leg to open that chest more towards that right. Good. You could keep the hand down or reach it up or reach it over. Gaze is either towards that right or up towards that top arm. But again, for me, sometimes I have neck issues and cranking my head around doesn't feel good. And then that head is in line with the spine as opposed to the head drooping down like a wilted flower. Strong legs. Inhale, rise back up to stand. And then step the back foot to the front foot. Shake it out, roll the shoulders. Good. All right. So we're going to work a little bit on balance, but before we do that, I want to do some of the foot and toe exercises that we sometimes do in this class and I often do in my other classes. And I would say for some people this can be really frustrating because it's hard to move your toes sometimes by themselves. So we're going to do a few options here. So I'm going to have you stand with your feet hip distance or shoulder distance apart and lift all 10 toes and spread them out. And then I'd like you to lower just the big toes down. Good. And then come back up. Big toes stay up and lower the outer toes. Good. And then come back up. So it's big toes down, up, outer toes down, and up. And if you guys aren't sure what's happening here, get closer to your screen and watch. Yeah. And then if you're watching your feet, do it without watching your feet. This is starting to build proprioceptive sense, so the ability to feel what your body is doing without the visual confirmation of it. Breathe. And then notice how high your arches are here. We are strengthening the muscles that support the skeletal arch of the foot. Takes work off the plantar fascia and off the tendons that come and attach on the sole of the foot and the toes. All right, lower the feet down, shake them out, shake them out, shake them out. That's a good one to practice, but don't overdo it because you can give yourself tendonitis on the top of the foot. And with the way you guys are strapped into the boat, that is, your feet are strapped into the boat, that is a potential problem there as well, or it can be. And yeah, so let's do a little bit with balance. So the squishier your surface, the more challenging it is to balance. So feel free to step off of your mat if you'd like, or come over to the wall. We are going to be standing on one foot. So bring whichever foot forward that you want to balance on first and spread those toes. Place them down, spread out. So that's going to widen our base of support and activate that arch we were talking about before. Bring the other foot behind you, toes down. So I'll start in the toes down and set it up. So focus your gaze on a spot, not moving, that's at eye level. In yoga, this is called your drishti. Physical therapy, you call it gaze focus when we do vestibular rehab. Tailbone down, top of the head up. Nice, good. And you could do hands on the hips if you want something to do with your arms. And then if you can, raise the back foot up off the ground. Bring it behind you. Yeah, no, you could always put the toes down. You could stay here or make it more dynamic by sweeping that back knee forward and then pushing the leg back, squeezing the glute as you push back. Good. Inhale, knee forward. Exhale, push the leg back. Nice. Stay upright here if you can, so that you isolate this at the hip and your core stays engaged. One more. So balance is important for all of us for maybe obvious reasons. Good. Lower that foot down, shake it out, walk it off. But being in the boat, this may be focusing a little bit more on the foot and the ankle, but being in the boat, being able to balance and feel and automatically do the corrections at your hips for keeping that boat level. All right, other foot forward, spread the toes, place them down, spread out. Other foot is back behind you in a kickstand, most of the weight on the front foot. Focus the gaze, tailbone down, top of the head up. That's going to stack joints over joints, which will help with balance. Lift that back foot here when you're ready. You could stay with this, knowing you could always put the foot down, or inhale, drive the knee forward. Exhale, push the leg back, squeezing the buttocks on that side. Good. And don't look, but feel all the little movements that are happening in your foot and your ankle. That's good. Those are automatic, reflexive balance reactions that we are training here. All right, I lost count, but I think this might be enough. Yeah, lower that foot down, shake it out, roll the shoulders. Good. All right, coming up to the front of the mat. Inhale, get tall, reach your arms up, look up. On your exhale, find that version of forward fold you did before. So it could be forearms on the thighs or that ragdoll, knees a little bent, upper body draped over. Take a few breaths right here. And then bend the knees a little bit more, lower the hands down to the floor and walk your feet back into a down dog. Let's find that down dog one more time. So that little bend to the knees, hips reaching up and back. Your fingers are facing forward, but the inner elbows are turning inward or a little bit more forward without the hands rotating out. All right, lower the knees, untuck your toes. Come into a little rest, whether it's child's or puppy, or take a seat or lie down on your belly. And start to lengthen out your breath, slowing it down. Coming back to that intention of the practice of being open, curious. And it might be you stay here a little bit longer, or now I'm going to open it up here and see If anyone at home has questions, or if Felix and Jennifer have questions about anything that we've done so far. So those of you at home can unmute yourself and ask. Just means more yoga if nobody asks questions. There'll be more opportunities later. So if you want to ask later, you can, or if you're too blissed out or too in your resting position right now. So we're going to come back up to hands and knees to do a variation of bird dog. Well, this is a more traditional version. So you might want the padding here at your knees. You might want those different hand positions because we'll be weight bearing potentially down through one hand. So we want our core engaged for this. It's kind of the main reason for doing this. So think about firming your abdominal muscles, like a solid wall of your abdominal muscles. And then I'll have you reach one leg back and the toes point straight down. Let's start with just the leg because I want you to keep your hips really level. Push that leg or your foot back as if your foot were holding up a wall. And then reach your opposite arm forward, thumb up, which is going to help keep that tension out of the neck. And then get really long from your heel to the top of your head. Now, this starts to engage muscles along the spine that are really important for keeping your spine stable and steady. All right, lower the knee, lower the hand, take a few cat-cows, sit back on your heels, shake out the wrists, roll your shoulders, child or puppy. And remember, you could have the forearm down on a yoga block if that is more helpful for you. So again, go ahead and spread your fingers here. If you claw the pads of your fingers into the floor, it starts to put a little dome under your palm, which is similar to the arch in the foot. And the more you can get some of that dome in there, the less pressure on the wrist, and it actually facilitates the right shoulder position here. All right, firm your belly. Lengthen that spine, tailbone and top of the head reaching away. Other foot comes back this time. Yeah, push the heel back like that foot is holding up a wall. That's the only thing holding the wall up. And reach your opposite arm forward. Thumb up. Good. Find even more length. So the reason this is called bird dog, because it's like a hunting dog. Now, I've never been hunting, but I've seen Bugs Bunny. And is it Elmer Fudd that has the hunting dog? So think long from the heel to the top of the head. Good. One more breath here. And then you're lowering the hand, lowering the knee. Take a few cat-cows, roll the shoulders. All right, we're coming onto our back. So for you, you guys here, have your feet towards me, your head away. Yeah. We're coming into dead bug. So dead bug is basically bird dog on your back, right? You think about it? So we're going to start with the feet. We're going to do just legs first. So Felix, you can bring your arms down. Bring your feet up, knees bent. So knees are over hips, shins parallel to the floor. And already you might feel your core engaging. For a little bit more engagement of the core, press your back ribs down into the floor. So I'm going to come over here to Jennifer. And about where a woman's bra strap would be is where you want to press down. So you're pressing right down into my hand. Good. And you'll feel your core engaging, or you should, or hopefully you do, I should say. Keep that the whole time. Don't let the back ribs pop up off the floor, and lower one foot. Keep that right angle at the knee and tap the heel down. Bring it back up and switch sides. Inhale, tap that heel down. Exhale, bring it up. Alternating here. Yeah. Now, if you started to do this and engage the core and you feel your neck muscles really tightening up, you might bring your hands overhead in a diamond shape like Felix has, or hands behind the head like a stargazing position. Good. If you want more challenge, we can add the arms. So you'd start with your arms up over the shoulders. And as you lower one foot, you lower the opposite arm down. And yes, this does often take a little bit of thought, a little cognitive activation. If you want more challenge, you start to stretch the leg out instead of keeping that knee bent. Yes. The important piece is you keep those back ribs pressed into the floor the whole time. And maybe equally as important is that you keep breathing. Or maybe more important is that you keep breathing. It's pretty important. All right, pull the knees in towards you. You could hold the shins or the backs of the thighs, and maybe you circle those hips like we did at the very beginning. Nice. You guys did great. It looked like you were maintaining that core control. I'm going to have you roll onto your left sides. We're getting ready for a quad stretch here of the, actually, let's do that bottom leg quad. So you're going to be facing this way, facing your left, and support the head, whether it's with your arm or a blanket or both. So I'm going to have you straighten the bottom leg, and the top knee and shin are going to come forward and rest on the ground or the block. So bring that whole foot off there you go. Yeah, it's the bottom leg that we're going to stretch. So your right leg, you're bending and pull it back and find it with your top hand. Yes. If you don't get the foot, this is where you could use a strap. It's right behind, right under your butt. You look okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And it can be a little bit tricky to get that foot, but yeah. And what you want to feel is this opening, lengthening, stretching on the front of the thigh, the hip. If you feel pain in the knee, it means you've bent that knee too much. Same thing if you feel a cramp in the hamstrings, the back of the thigh. Slow the breath down again. So if you can come into that lengthened breath, remember from the beginning, that's calming to the nervous system, which then allows you to relax your muscles, and then it makes the stretch more comfortable, have more ease to it. Because in rowing, your quads are working really hard. And for most of you, I bet your quads are really strong. This is a good stretch to keep your knees, your hips, your back healthy. This is one variation of quad stretch. All right, let that foot go and roll to the other side. So make sure the head is supported. No need to strain through your neck as we stretch the quads. Bottom leg straightens. Top knee and shin come down to rest on the floor or put a block under there. And then we're bending that bottom knee. Yeah, finding it with the top hand. Nice. Breathe. So my physical therapy clients, I typically tell them do a 30-second stretch. If I'm working on lengthening muscles, if I'm working on fascia, it's a lower grade, more prolonged stretch, which we'll do something towards the end for that, for the chest and shoulder muscles. But if you're like me, I'm counting my 1,000, 1,000 to get to my 30-second stretch. And then I'm like, oh, I forgot to send that email, 1,000. Oh, I'm out of eggs. 5. What number was I on? So if I do slow, deep breaths, I'm imagining, I haven't timed it, one slow, deep breath is about 6 seconds, 5 seconds, 5 seconds. So 6 slow, deep breaths will give me a 30-second stretch, and it keeps me in the present moment of what I'm feeling in my body. All right, we're going to release this and roll onto your back. So we're coming into bridge pose. We're going to do an active bridge, and then we're going to do a supported bridge. So you can see the difference, and you can maybe see a little bit better about where to place the block. But if you want to do something more restorative, feel free to go straight into that supported bridge, the prop under the hips. So for this one, you're going to line your heels up with your sitting bones. So remember I said your sitting bones are about in line with where your hip joints are. Yeah, your hip joints are not these outer hip bones. They're in the center of your hip crease. That's the alignment. You want your heels in relatively close so that you don't get a hamstring cramp. Bring your arms down by your sides. No, right down by your sides. Yep. And then press through your feet and lift your hips and back up off the ground. Now, once you're up, you're going to roll towards one shoulder, tuck the other shoulder blade in closer to the spine, and do the other side. Good. So one option here, especially if your shoulders and chest are tight, is just to press your pinky sides of the hands straight down into the floor. So Felix, bring your arms down. Yep, and push there. If you have the flexibility, reach under you and interlace your fingers and then press the pinky sides of the hands into the floor. You got it. Check where the weight is on your feet. So Felix, you have rotated towards the outer edges of your feet. Good, good. Yeah, and then press into the big toes. Take one more inhale. And then bring your arms out from underneath you, coming down onto your back. Once you're down, you could rock your knees gently side to side. So in that one, interlacing your fingers underneath you is not a requirement. It can feel good to open that chest, but if you don't have the range of motion or your shoulders don't like it, then your arms stay down by your side. But we want the pressure of the arms into the floor to help us get more lift in the upper back, the thoracic spine. So that was the active bridge. Supported bridge would be using a block or a foam roller or a folded blanket. So you're lifting the hips and sliding that prop underneath your sacrum. Felix, I'm going to have you do it with the bolster. So try this here. You're going to have to lift up a little higher. Yeah, the bolster is actually kind of lovely. So make sure it's below the vertebrae of your low back. The bolster gives you a little bit more flexibility, and you don't have to be as exact. Once you're here with the hips elevated and supported, convince your buttocks, your glutes, and your low back to relax. Right? So those muscles got you here, but they no longer need to hold you here. So we're already mildly inverted, meaning your hips are higher than your shoulders. This starts to create space between the vertebrae of the lumbar spine, more space for the discs. So you might choose to stay right here, or you could come into this legs up position. So you pull the knees in and reach your feet up towards the ceiling. Now, if you're tight in your hamstrings, bend your knees a little bit, pull the thighs a little closer towards your belly so that you're not having to work really hard through the hip flexors and the quadriceps. So I don't care if your knees are straight, it doesn't matter. And then maybe you add some movement here at the legs. It could be circling the ankles, pointing and flexing the feet. Maybe you pull one knee in towards you as you reach the other foot up and go back and forth. So one of the great things about this position is it can be a restorative recovery position after a lot of lower body activity or exercise, after travel, after a long day on your feet, or even just a long day at the desk where your feet are down. So the elevation, gravitational assist of the fluid that can accumulate in the lower body with this position, but then the movement, there's a muscle pump action, sort of like a milking type of motion to move any excess fluid to assist the lymphatic system and the venous system here. All right, when you're ready, pull the knees in towards you, lower the feet down to the floor, lift your hips and slide that prop out from underneath. All right, so we're going to do some variations of pigeon. I almost always in my classes do not do a traditional pigeon pose, but Jennifer can comfortably get into it. So I'm going to have her demonstrate that while Felix is going to do the ankle over knee stretch here. So you've got one ankle over the other knee if you're on your back, and you could pull the leg in towards you. Jennifer here has her outer shin or calf on the floor, and her right knee is pointing towards the left front corner of the mat, and the back leg straight and folding forward. And then Felix here is holding onto the leg. Felix, I'm going to have you do the variation where we put this right foot on block. So I'm going to put 2 blocks and you're going to rest the foot there. And that's your hands-free version, which can be nice if you're like me and you tend to tense and tighten through the neck and shoulders. You could also do this very similarly at the wall where that down foot is pressed up against the wall. Yeah. But you put your foot down, Felix, if you want. Or you could go back to the, holding, because you can get a little bit more stretch there. And you're just looking for that sensation of stretch or openness in the buttocks, outer hip. And then when you're ready, we'll switch sides. So Jennifer will press herself up. And Jennifer, if you'd rather do the ankle over knee on your back, feel free to. If you like that one, you're okay. So both of you here, just see how you're feeling through the shoulders, the neck, the jaw muscles, even the muscles around your eyes, and see if you can soften any of that. For most of us, we are, unaware of how much tension we chronically, persistently hold there. And it can be hard, but sometimes you can consciously release it. And the more often you do that during your day, not just in yoga practice, the more second nature it is, and you don't have to be so mindful of it all the time. All right, when you're ready, letting this go. And then we're coming into the chest stretch here. So Felix brought his own half foam roller. So Felix, can you hold that up so they can see that? So it's just cut down like that, the diameter of the, And then Jennifer is rolling up a blanket. So both of these things are going to go under the spine. So hopefully it's long enough that you can get your tailbone, spine, and head on here. But if it's shorter than that, your hips are going to be down and the head will definitely be on there. And you could use a whole foam roller here too. It's just a little bit more intense. And for me, I always feel more comfortable with my knees bent, but whatever feels comfortable to you here is totally fine. Yeah. And then I want you to start with your arms down by your sides, palms facing up. So if you've noticed a lot of things, I've had you do palms facing up so that's external rotation at the shoulders, and that allows the shoulders to drift away from your ears. So Felix, actually both of you, bring your arms just a little bit more out to the side, like 6 more inches away from your body. Yep. Now that your work is done, it's gravity that is going to do the work here of pulling the shoulders towards the earth and opening through the chest. So pec muscles, biceps, anterior deltoids here are getting stretched. But if we go slow and do this for more than a minute, we are going to start to stretch and lengthen fascia. Fascia is connective tissue, so it's not contractile like muscle. And it responds to more low-grade prolonged stretch or gentle, repetitive, oscillating movements like cat and cow, like that sideline twist, like the toe rocking movement. So depending on how tight you are in the chest and the shoulders, you could stay here or bring the arms out to the sides in a T. So arms are out like a 90-degree angle. You may need to kind of adjust where those shoulder blades are. Slow that breathing down again. See if you can notice this sort of incremental movement of the shoulder blades wrapping around the roll passively, meaning you're not forcing them there. gravity is. You might stay here or come into a cactus arm position. So elbows are bent, backs of the hands resting on the floor. So if you bent your elbows to 90 degrees, but the backs of the hands don't comfortably rest on the floor, or you're feeling a lot of too much intense stretch, then you bring the elbows out to more like 45 degrees. It's going to stretch and lengthen a different muscle, different chest muscle, different striation of the fascia, different angle there. This is a really nice one to do at the end of the workday, especially if you've been hunched over the computer. It's nice to do after a long day of travel, especially I swear airplane seats are meant to force you in the shape of a shrimp. Remember, gravity is doing the work and you're breathing with ease. So you could choose to stay here for your Shavasana for the relaxation piece, or if you'd like to come into something else, some legs up the wall, the legs up on the chair, the couch, feel free. So whatever, if you guys want the bolster back, or I think sometimes Felix does a combination of that chest stretch and the legs up on the bolster. So wherever you want to go here. Felix said this is why he came. You're gonna have to straighten your foam roller out, Felix. That'll work. All right. So yeah, Jennifer's gonna do legs up the wall here, and if that's comfortable, you can do that there, or you can kind of sit sideways to get closer in, and then rotate on your butt to come up. Yeah, good. And you could have your legs straight up here. They could be out more in a straddle. My favorite is the ankle over knee, ankle over ankle, which kind of anchors my legs there. But I think I intuitively did that because I've been having this Achilles problem for 11 years. So, yeah. So you might take an inhale through your nose, open the mouth. Yeah, one more. Really let it go. And then let the breath go. So we're no longer focused on how deep or the ease of the breathing here. You're letting the props or the wall, the floor, the earth support you. Your body recognizes support so that you don't have to work to be here. So you might even take a little scan of your body and see if you're holding on somewhere, right? Sometimes it's the jaw. If it is the jaw, you can bring the tip of your tongue to the back side of the top front teeth and just gently rest it there, and that will keep you from clenching your jaw. Resting in this recovery position for the next few minutes. Start to deepen your breath. Bring some small movements in, wiggling the fingers, the toes, the wrists, the ankles. If you'd like that good morning stretch, you could reach your arms overhead and inhale, reach out through the arms, maybe out through the legs. Exhale, let it go. Bend the knees here and roll to your side, pausing for a moment on your side here if you can, maybe supporting the head. And one reason to pause here is you can sometimes have lowered your blood pressure so much in this position. When you come back to upright, you can feel a little lightheaded. So if you take a few more bigger, deeper breaths, you start to increase the intra-abdominal pressure, which will help you not feel dizzy when you come to upright. But I also use this as an opportunity to appreciate this practice, to be grateful for my body, even when it doesn't work in the ways that I want it to or how it did 15 years ago. To appreciate my breath, my health, and of course, this yoga practice. Pressing yourself up to a seated position. Thank you, Felix. Thank you, Jennifer, for taking your time and being models, demonstrators for this. Thank you, everyone at home, for sharing your practice. The light in me honors the light in each of you. Namaste. Thank you, everybody. I am okay.